Hi, this is Drew Jones of Drew's Guitar Shop in Seattle, Washington. In this video, I wanted to talk about when certain approaches to problems present unintended consequences. This guitar here received some kind of artificial aging at some point and received some work from, I don't know who, but anyway, what's going on here is that we have basically all of the things done that were on the repair ticket. So we've worked on the frets, we've worked on the nut, we've done some pickup installs that are going to be adjusted here after we do the setup. But in getting to the setup, I realized that these guys did not move. And if you look down in the gap between the edge of that screw and the edge of the saddle here, you can see a little shiny thing going on. And you can see that shiny thing going on in a lot of these. And what you can see is that the tops of these guys have been filled so much, in some cases, with whatever that is, that I can't even get my wrench to bite. Now, the ones that I can get my wrench to bite on, so let me go ahead and get that in there. This guy here, it's not gonna move. Like, I'm feeling like I'm probably going to strip or break my wrench before I get that saddle to move at all. And so something has been placed in here that just has frozen these things absolutely shut, absolutely stationary. None of these screws move. And the problem with that is that I need to be able to adjust these screws in order to set the string height, in order to set the string radius, and to complete the setup. And sometimes those even come into play when doing intonation adjustments too, when the trem is floating. So this is a huge problem. This setup can't even be done with these saddles in the current position. Now, I'm going to go on a limb here and say that I have a supposition here that I would propose to what is going on here. I think that this stuff in here is super glue. And the reason that I think that is because I flaked off a little bit of it and I tested it with some acetone and it did melt. I burnt a little bit on the edge of an X-Acto knife and it did stink, in the particular way that super glue does stink when you burn it. This is future editing, Drew, and I just wanted to show you all of this. This is basically undoubtedly super glue at this point. You see all this white crud that's in here. When super glue rapidly cures, it turns white like this. This is like, there are very few other things that would do what you're seeing here, but you can see how much super glue got in between this saddle and that screw. It is basically all the way down. Everywhere it could possibly be touching, it is definitely touching. This thing is not moving. This is like, yeah, if you wanted to, like, do a jeweler's set of, these screws into this saddle, there you go. That's never going anywhere. So anyway, I just wanted to interject this into the video just to kind of show that my supposition there was most likely correct. Anyway, on with the video. I'm not exactly sure why this was done. It could be that these screws were kind of slipping during play and they were lowering the saddles and kind of being unpredictable, in which case, yeah, you do want to put something in there, but the solution at that point would be maybe a little tiny toothpick drops worth of blue Loctite, not this. Or it could be that there was a rattle going on and somebody wanted to take up the gap, in which case, again, the blue Loctite, or, there are other methods of dealing with that other than this. But, regardless of what was going on here, why this was added, this was just a completely disastrous decision on the part of whoever put this stuff in here. Because basically what's going to have to happen here is that all of these saddles are going to have to completely come off and they're going to be replaced. Now, granted, the old saddles here that I'm going to be replacing these with do look better. I do think that they match, you know, aging process wise, the plate better than these ones do. And so, like, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big loss for this instrument. But imagine if we didn't want to do that. If this were like a vintage guitar or something where we wanted to keep all the original parts stock, this would be utterly disastrous. We would have to pull these out. We'd have to soak them overnight in some kind of solvent and hope and pray that these things would start moving after whatever it was in there had dissolved, which is a big if, because, you know, metal doesn't soak stuff up really all that well. And so, you know, getting something down in there into that hard area between where these two pieces of metal join is going to be a real difficult thing. And because these screws are so small, I just don't really think that we could mechanically break that without, you know, breaking, stripping a wrench or stripping the screw. And so, like, this is just a nightmare in terms of how you would undo this. And this was probably done in an attempt to repair a problem. Like I said, I can't say exactly what problem this was meant to correct, but I can say that no matter what the problem was, that this was an inappropriate solution. So, you know, here we stand at this juncture where, you know, the most complicated thing to repair is a bad repair. And so in this case, these things are just getting tossed out wholesale, and we're completely replacing them because these things are basically shot. And I'm kind of glad that the customer doesn't want me to try to save these because, you know, to be honest, I'm not exactly sure that these would come loose ever, no matter what we did. We could try applying heat to them. But even if we could break the thread, you know, that bond between the threads and the thing, I'm not so sure how we're going to go ahead and excavate all of this stuff from the internals of these screws, because there are some of these hex heads that are piled so high I can't even get anything in there. So, yeah, I mean, this is just nuts. It would cost so much time and effort to get in here and just even attempt that, and there's no guarantee that it would be successful. So, you know, when I see this kind of stuff, I do get a little bit, you know, kind of personally irritated with it, just because, like, the reason that I got into this line of work in the first place was to save instruments, you know, and to do right by things that came in here. And this would, in my opinion, kind of violate the Hippocratic oath of luthiers, because this definitely did more harm than good. So, yeah, don't put super glue in parts that are supposed to be adjustable and supposed to move. You know, there are other solutions out there. You know, if you find yourself wanting to lock a screw down a little tighter, there's literally a thing called thread locker that you could use, and there's the blue stuff, which, you know, when you put it on, just a tiny little drop usually does the job just fine and keeps the part adjustable and doesn't freeze it up like this and ruin things. Anyway, that's my whole spiel on this guy here. We're gonna be doing some work on it now and replacing these and getting this thing, you know, back in gear. But it is kind of sad that this is, you know, kind of something that we're having to deal with here. Anyway, this has been Drew Jones of Drew's Guitar Shop in Seattle, Washington. If you liked this video, like, subscribe, hit the bell, link around to friends, and all of that good stuff. And if you feel like dropping me a tip, there's a link to my Ko-Fi and my Patreon in the description of the video. If for some reason you want to have some kind of like personal consultation, like you want to call me with questions about stuff, I offer those services through my Patreon and my Ko-Fi. And so, you know, unless the call is coming in to set up an appointment, that's where I tend to prefer to get those. There's also a link in the description to my Reverb page where I sell some stuff. You might check that out. And then there's a link down there to my website where you can find my contact information and my pricing information for repair work, as well as a page that I wrote on caring for stringed instruments. And, you know, may include some tips in there to avoid some stuff like this in the future. Anyway, this has been Drew Jones of Drew's Guitar Shop in Seattle, Washington. Thank you for watching.